What's up, squad? It's Brandon from the Bantu Sun. Thank you so much for joining me today. I had a conversation with a friend, and this friend was from Iowa, and they were talking about going to see a country music concert. Now, I've never been the biggest country music fan, so I was curious. I said, "How long have you liked country? What brings you to the music?" And this friend, she said, "Well, I kind of grew up on country music, and it's always kind of been in my roots." So, of course, the logical question to me is it sounds like country music was almost inherited to you. Do you think your passion, your care, your sympathy towards country music is because of lack of exposure to other types of music? If you grew up listening to country music, your parents and all your friends, it really was no outlet or any main source for other options. Like, how do you know that you really like country music or you just know nothing else? And I kind of said it in passing, but I can tell by this person's response, their hesitation, that was the first time they had really critically thought about uh, their relationship to country music. And of course, we all have different traditions and ceremonies, rituals that we grew up with that we don't really question. But so much of understanding ourselves, what we're trying to do, and surveying the world is the options we have available are options because we decided these are the best route to take, or it's because we don't have visibility to identify arterial routes. In Ukraine, they are undergoing a process they call de-Russification. In layman's term, and in a more blunt way, I will call this cultural cleansing. What they're doing to a significant scale is defacing Ukrainian culture of Russian bonds. They have removed over 19 million copies of books by Russian writers, as well as books that are in the Russian language. And there's a significant impact to literature. I'm talking about writers such as Leo Tolstoy, novelists such as Fyodor Dostoevsky, or the poet Alexander Pushkin. These are not only Russian giants in literature, but these are global giants in literature. Ukrainians are removing statues and monuments, even as far as the city of Odessa, removing Catherine the Great, the Russian empress, fingerprints on that city, which is so famous for her being the major architect of founding as part of the major port city for the Russian Empire. Now, other images related to nationality, liberation, defiance are being put in lieu of these former marks of Ukrainian history. It's almost a cultural decoupling between Ukraine and Russia. And it's beyond that. It's a hard stop. And the Ukrainian identity is not only being set up and built around a foundation of Russian separateness, but almost an anti-Russianness. And this is what I find to be extremely interesting because not only is the identity being separated from Russian connection, but it's almost being formed in a antithetical nature, as in to be Ukrainian in itself is to be in resistance and defiance of Russia. This is what's going to have the cultural grip for generations on generations on generations to come. This delineation between cultures and the buildup that is created from such behavior. A great example of this will be North and South Korea. So much of the institution and identity of these two nations, even though they're one people, is in its essence of not being the other. Therefore, you cannot be Ukrainian and Russian because they are mutually exclusive. This is very interesting to a country which a significant minority of the population speaks Russian language, being a neighbor of Russia. But yet, this is where we are. And this is going to go into the resistance, this bulwark of defense in Central Europe at the West is building up. And because this is already taking hold in Poland. And now the future Ukraine that would be built from these ashes of destruction, their new national identity will be in its anti-Russianness as well. Another thing it made me think about is a self-reflection. Because of the intentional orchestration of this, it means that the architects of society understands and fully appreciate the role that the environment plays into your psyche, your surroundings, and its insidious nature in developing your temperament and your disposition. So of course I have to ask myself, what has been sanitized in my environment? What has been altered in my reality to see a certain point of view or perspective? What monuments, statues, rituals, and idols do I hold sacred? Which, upon the mere scratching of the surface, will reveal nothing but charlatans and false gods. What heroes have been put before me on pedestals that if I was to take a deeper look at, I would find no affinity or relation to? We should take that lesson away from this geopolitical situation. We should take this lesson away of defining our gods, understanding that our home can only be in here and in here, in our hearts and minds. And it's our home. It's not necessarily to be shared by others. And when somebody tries to have these sacred cows, these images, these peoples, these idols beyond reproach, that should be a red flag. It should ring alarms on why is it so important that they purport some guiding light on our mindset, on our behavior, on our outlook. Think hard and be diligent and deliberate on mentalities and ideologies and heroes that you choose to be guiding lights in your day-to-day life as well. Take nothing for granted, because obviously these organizers of society aren't doing so in their own right. This concerted attempt to cleanse Ukrainian culture of Russian influence is a blatant display on how culture is molded as opposed to just being an organic outburst. There is an inherent nature, but there is also an imposed nature on the way we see the world. That's my thoughts. I'd love to hear what you think. Please comment below. Like, share, subscribe if you enjoy the content. Until next time, take care. Bantu up.